Welcome to Pulp Mortem, the search for lost science fiction classic.
The only non-Star Trek James Blish that I have now. You think that I can be bought like that? You know what? You just wasted $2. I'm not giving you anything. I'm not giving you anything at all. You know what, Jake? Because you ask so nicely, I'll give you. You better get ready, because to be fair, you paid $2 for it. Meow.
Tim from Secret Fire Books was showing off a book with a kitty on it during a recent book haul, and to be perfectly honest, I had no reason for asking him to meow. I know I said I needed it for a clip, but I didn't. This is just a glimpse for you to see how my twisted mind works. I just wanted to see if he would meow on command for the entire internet to see. How sick is that? But unbeknownst to me at the time, the universe had plans for our meowing little feline friend. But first, let's talk about the author. John Beynon Harris was a pseudonym for John Wyndham Parks Lucas Beynon Harris. He is best known for the pen name that he wrote under after World War II, which is John Wyndham. Wyndham was an English author born July 10, 1903, and he died in 1969 at the age of 65. A tumultuous childhood full of trauma, bullying, and his parents' very public, very messy divorce did little to put young Wyndham ahead, and he struggled from job to job, needing help to survive. Then he began writing in earnest, and after a few years of grinding, his first short story appeared in the May 1931 issue of Wonder Stories. Around this time, Wyndham was living in London and began a relationship with schoolteacher Grace Isabel Wilson, but this wasn't discovered until the University of Liverpool posthumously revealed over 350 love letters between the two. Wow, just imagine all the secret love letters between you and your squeeze on display for the world to see and critique. Thanks, liver boys, that's not creepy at all. Despite their hidden relationship, they didn't marry. The reason being that, because of UK's marriage bar, she would be forced to quit her job once she became a wife. After all, who ever heard of a working wife? Simpler times, right? Relax, guys, I'm kidding. Hey, everybody settle down. Anywho, after World War II, Wyndham rebranded, not just in name, but in style as well, and dropped the T-Bomb the day of the Triffids hit the shelves and then flew off them. Triffids achieved SF's much-coveted crossover success and inspired a multitude of adaptations, most notably the 1962 movie. In fact, many of Wyndham's works were adapted to radio, stage, film, and television, including Jockey, The Chrysalids, and The Midwich Cuckoos, or as it was renamed, The Village of the Damned. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that he wrote a book called Jizzle.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Despite his explosive success as a writer, Wyndham never received any awards or recognition for his work. However, the list of those influenced by him is vast, but perhaps better than all of these things is when, in 1963, John Wyndham finally married the love of his life, which brings us to The Secret People. Rocket to the Earth's core. It was an ultra-scientific machine, but it plunged Mark and Margaret into the weirdest of primitive worlds, a land beneath the Earth's surface and forgotten by time. In those dimly lit caverns, a strange and forgotten race fought a desperate battle for survival, and blind chance would decide whether their captives would be rulers or slaves. The one certain thing was that there was no way out. The Secret People is an original story first published by George Nunes as a hardcover in 1935. I own the first American printing, which is this 1964 Lancer edition. It is 175 pages and originally cost 50 cents. Covers by Frank Frazetta, and it is so unbelievably cool. Now, I've made jokes in the past about Frazetta's, shall we say, proclivity to, Frankie was clearly a butt guy. But isn't it strange that the best booty he ever painted was on this fella? I mean, look at it. This guy doesn't just have junk in the trunk. That's a hatchback. Of course, I kid. This cover is gorgeous and story accurate. This scene actually takes place, and I love it when they do that. And listen, we're not making any no giant mushroom jokes today, okay?
Hey, that's a big todger.
It is funny that the cover states John Wyndham introduces something by himself, and he actually does the introduction as well. Now, I won't read the introduction. It's kind of lengthy. However, it is very fascinating how he is pretending to critique and praise, mainly critique, this author, and he actually takes a kind of a dig at himself at the very end. It shows some tight-lipped mirth and winking self-awareness that makes me think that John probably would have been somebody fun to hang out with. If you're not picky about what edition you want, you can find it for $5 to $8, maybe $10 in good condition. The original hardcover I've seen beat up without the dust jacket for around $200. Intact in good condition, you're looking at well over $1,000. Mark Sennett, Booty Boy here, has made his fortune and now just wants a holiday, so he's taking his personal flying rocket ship, the Sunbird, all around the world, just seeing the sights and spreading his wings. He makes a stop in Algeria, where he is enchanted by the beautiful Margaret Lawn, who also is on vacation to see the New Sea, which is a massive multi-nation project to pump ocean water into the Sahara Desert to create a new sea.
Well, my lady, perhaps you would like to go see it with me.
So after some mild flirting, she agrees to take a quick joyride on his personal rocket.
That's what she said.
Stop it. You guys are in a mood today.
I need my books to be horny, because I'm a genre reader and I'm horny.
All right, this is getting annoying. Anyways, will you please let me finish?
That's what she said.
Okay, so they're flying inside the Sunbird, and there's a malfunction. The rocket ship crashes, but they manage to land in the New Sea and somehow drag the crashed ship to an island. While stranded on this island, they are discovered by a cat.
Meow.
See? Told you it'd make sense. Mark and Margaret named the cat Bast after the Egyptian sun goddess, and they're stranded there for a while. However, it soon becomes clear that no rescue is coming. Nobody knew that they left. So as a result, they fashion a sail and use the crippled Sunbird as a raft. Then the New Sea is churned up. A whirlpool forms beneath them, and they are sucked down into the depths of the earth. They discover a subterranean world lost in time, as alien as anything back in my office, and a secret people as enigmatic and as mysterious as they are deadly. All right, let's talk about what I liked. There's something endlessly fascinating about an entire world under our feet. Perhaps started by Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth, it's a theme that doesn't show any signs of slowing. Now, usually I'm very cool and put together.
Right.
So at the risk of sounding a little nerdy, this is Blackreach from Skyrim, a hidden, sprawling underground world. Fungal spores float around you like snow. Forests of giant mushrooms, strange bioluminescent orbs, and ancient, dilapidated ruins litter the world beneath the desert, where the pale denizens bear you ill will. The world that Wyndham created here is top-notch. The Pygmies. These are pygmies. Take that feigned offense someplace else. Pygmy is a legitimate scientific term. It's not derogatory. And what's more, these are actual pygmies. Trapped in cave systems for thousands of years, these are the subterranean offshoots of pygmy tribes that got lost or trapped while migrating south. As a result, these are more than just bad guys. They aren't unga-bunga miniature cavemen. They are a fleshed-out people with legitimate motivations and reasoning. They are simple, but that doesn't mean that they're stupid. And as cool as this cover is, they don't look like this. So when Mark and Margaret are exploring the underworld, they are soon confronted with these pygmies. They are curious and standoffish at first, but then they see Margaret and charge. Mark tries to fight them off, kills a few, but is soon overwhelmed by their sheer numbers. His head is bashed against the rocks, and soon he loses consciousness. He wakes up, but has no idea of how much time has passed, because time is an irrelevant thing here in the darkness. But he is nursed back to health by, to his surprise, a couple of Americans, an Arab, and an African sculptor. Eventually, he learns that he has been placed in the lower depths, essentially a prison along with nearly 1,500 others. And while there's no way out, it begs the question, why would these savages go through all the trouble of keeping all these people alive? The battle sequences are great. Mark is drafted into this secret rebellion, which is a small group of survivors that haven't given up hope, and they have been quietly, secretly, tunneling their way out. However, there is a betrayal, and soon all-out war breaks out. But this isn't a war of guns and blades. No, this is a war of rocks, stones, and mushrooms. Frankly, it is so much fun. Wyndham did some really clever stuff with battle strategies from both sides and kind of ebbs and flows of the battle. The fights were by far the best part of the book. Now, if you've read a JW, this won't come as a surprise, but he's really good. Nothing purple, nothing flowery, but even this, 20 years before his best work, you can tell he had a natural knack for storytelling. I would have zero hesitation picking up another John Wyndham. Now, I haven't read Triffids, but it kind of shocked me to learn that Alex Garland, when writing 28 Days Later, said he was heavily inspired by Wyndham's style and work. But as I read on, I get it, because this gets pretty dark, pretty brutal, especially towards the end, and especially for 1935. There were a few scenes that actually surprised me with its sudden barbarism. There is a villain that Wyndham does a good job crafting into a sympathetic villain, and then he makes you hate that villain. It's good stuff. The stakes. We are running out of time because the sea above them is slowly but surely working its way down into the caves below, and the prisoners are on the lowest level. Even during the battles and all the action that's happening, we are subconsciously looking for drips and listening for rushing water. Add on top of this the mystery that is plaguing Mark. What has happened to Margaret? Is she still alive? If so, what do the pygmies want with her? How can he get to her? So even while they're trying to escape, Mark knows that he cannot leave without her. He needs to know what happened to Margaret, and if something did happen to her, he needs to avenge her. I've read so many books that have interesting things happening, but they forget about tension. They forget to add stakes. I love it when there is a looming thread in the background of everything. Ticking clock elements are great. Nebulous ticking clock elements are better, and they heighten and add stress onto every single scene. And now, the bad. Meow. It's funny that I just talked about the great stakes and tension in this book, because in the beginning there was none. There was a comic lack of it. Mark and Margaret seem pretty okay with everything that's happening to them. This kind of awful, catastrophic things happening to them, they're like very even keel about it.
I'm terribly sorry that my rocket ship crashed and nearly killed us.
It's no problem. I'm sure it wasn't your fault, strange man that I just met.
Phooey, it appears as though we're being sucked into a whirlpool into the depths of the earth. Can you believe that?
Well, not to worry. I'm sure we'll be all right. After all, things have a way of working out, don't they?
Hello, there appears to be frightening little cave fellows advancing upon us.
Well, I declare they look like little gnomes emerging from little mushroom houses. Wait, Mark, why are you shooting at them? They're only charging us and shrieking at the top of their lungs.
This really bothered me. Like, can you guys at least act worried for our sake? But I will say, this is completely rectified in the second half, where both Mark and Margaret start to feel and act like real people. Meow. Wyndham made a joke at his own expense during the introduction about his propensity for idle chatter, and he's right, especially the two American characters, a military man, John Smith, and the archaeologist, Charles Gordon. Wait, Gordon might have been, maybe he was English, now I'm thinking about it. He might have been English. Anyway, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyways, these two are our sources of exposition. But since so much of what they know is either assumed or extrapolated, we have some very beefy sections of this book of reasoning, speculation, and pontification. Now, to be fair, I don't hate this. That being said, there are some chunks of this in the middle that can get pretty dull. With so much happening, I was like, okay, this is all great, but stop talking. We've got stuff to do, guys. Meow. The latter half of this book's perspective shifts to third-person omniscient and will jump viewpoints mid-paragraph. Now, this is just a matter of personal taste. I don't care for a third-person omniscient. I'm sure there are some great literary examples of this style. That would put me to shame, but I can't help my opinion. I like staying with one person's viewpoint, at least per scene. Maybe perhaps the issue is that this book started third-person limited and then just inexplicably shifted. Your mileage on this may vary. I'm sure this won't be an issue for some of you. It may not be an issue for most of you, but it was for me. Meow. Now the battle's been raging on. It's coming up to the climax. It's coming up to the crescendo, and suddenly we shift, and we're with Margaret and the pygmies. We stay here until the final act, and this was actually fun. This is actually pretty interesting. The pygmies, we find out, weren't actually interested in Margaret. No. They seized her because she was holding Bast the cat. Meow. She is taken to this cathedral in these underground ruins where she sees carvings and statues even older than the secret people, and standing prominently is the Egyptian cat goddess Bast. So these pygmies have been praying to Bast because their world is flooding. It's coming from the sky in their viewpoint. It'd be akin to the sky falling for us. They've been praying to Bast for deliverance, and then, lo and behold, they see a real cat. It appears right in their hour of need, and they've only ever seen, this stone version. So Margaret is enslaved, but she's treated well because she's the caretaker for their god. She's the high priestess for their god. None of this is bad. This is all very good. And so you ask, okay, well, what's bad point number 4 then? Well, the Judas of the story is trying to get Margaret to work with him. When she refuses, well, let me read it to you. I'll make you sorry you ever lived to tell him, you dirty little double-crosser. A faint sound came from the far corner. Miguel spun round to face Bast in the performance of her usual awakening yawn. She looked up at him and meowed. Told him I'd spat you in the eye, did you? Well, see what I really do. He jumped towards the cat, seized it by the tail. It gave one screech, which was cut short as its head met the wall.
What? What the
Yep. Now, I really do like cats. I am more of a dog guy, but I like cats, and I can see how this might be, akin to kicking a dog stereotype for you, snapping a cat by the tail like a whip. But the funny thing is, I thought to myself, that wouldn't kill a cat. You think it would, but it wouldn't. When I was younger, I used to help lead missions to the Karinpo hill tribe peoples of northern Thailand. We would take teams and we would hike to these remote villages, and then we'd, do things. We'd build wells, plant crops, do things like that. Anyway, these tribes people would eat anything. They'd eat bugs, snakes, lizards, dogs, cats. And as we learned by experiencing it, they would kill these animals the same way, by hitting them with either a hammer or a stick or their hands. I mean, sorry, I didn't design this culture, okay? It wasn't my idea. But yeah, they would, these little people, they were very small. They weren't pygmy height, but they were very, very small. I mean, they barely came up to my nips. And, but they were jungle ninjas. Like, they could karate chop a chicken in one hit. So one day, this Karinpo ninja told me, chicken, 1 hit. Cow, 2 hits. Goat, 1 hit. Dog, 3 hits. Cat, 15 hits. And sure enough, the cat emerged a scene later, apathetically cleaning itself like nothing happened.
Meow. Meow. Meow.
Meow.
Wait, now we're starting the fun? Wasn't that last point fun? Anyway, the Arab man, Muhammad el-Jazza, or just the Arab as he's referred to for the rest of the book, is telling Mark how he ended up being caught and enslaved here. Let me read you what he said. Now we learn that he is a part of some sort of rebel Arabian force, and they are being bogged down in these caves by military fire. And what it says here is, the rest of us were content to sit tight and guess what particular form of hell-raising was going on outside. A half hour later, we knew for certain. There's a God almighty explosion right above us. I'm unfamiliar with that particular Arabian accent.
Meow.
Now, let's just be honest for a minute. We all have our type, and that's fine. Now, attraction may be broad, it may be narrow, but having a preference, which we all do, naturally means that there will be some discrimination. Now, not in a bad way, but when it comes to attraction, we like what we like. Anyways, what I'm saying is I don't think John Wyndham liked redheads. Many of the red-haired girls he had known, he reflected, had an unsatisfactory, kind of unfinished look about the eyes, but there's no trace of that in Margaret's face. Wouldn't it be funny if Grace Isabel Wilson ended up being a redhead?
Meow.
Each morning, Margaret would go for a swim in this underground pool. The pygmies would watch her. She thought they were just guarding her. But soon, large crowds start gathering to observe this morning ritual. Now, Margaret assumed that perhaps they thought this was a ritual, that some religious motion she would do to appease Bast, and so she assumed that these pygmies were just piously observing. Still, as each day comes and goes, more and more of the pygmies would gather to watch. Margaret, I think I know why they were watching you.
Come on in.
Didn't bring my bathing suit.
What's a bathing suit?
Oh, murder.
So what's the verdict? Personal collection. Despite the occasional dialogue lull, this is an interesting, fun, and action-packed adventure that really shines at some points. Even 20 years before his breakout success, John Wyndham showed us all what he can do. It's dated, it's pulpy, it's a ton of fun. And that is my review of The Secret People. Have you read this, or perhaps you've read some of John Wyndham's other more popular work? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time with something even pulpier. The Ant-Men.
Again, thank you very much, Nick from...
Meow. Meow.
My cat keep walking around me making the weirdest noises.